Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for joining in. I am Aditya Oberoi, one of the coaches here at Major League Hacking. I am so excited to have you all here with me. So, as we have more and more folks joining in, I would love to have you all introduce yourselves once in the chat and, just share how Local Hack Day share has been for all of you so far. Hey, we've got a few folks here. Hi, hey. I have to say, I love these Twitch IDs. I think they're all great. Hey, man. Hey, bud. Awesome. So, I'd love to know how Local Ag Day share has been for all of you so far. To be honest, I am having a ton of fun going through some of these streams and just interacting with folks in the chats on and off in some of the other sessions. And so far, I mean, I think it's been great. To be honest, we're having some absolutely amazing sessions. We're having so much fun, to be honest. I think that's just been the best part about Local Ag Day share this time. All the interactions that have been going on. Yes, exactly. They've all been a ton of fun. So, while just before we begin, of course, I think the first thing would be is to go ahead, register, and check in on our link here. So, in order to do that, please make sure that you hop over to the link that I've just shared with you in the chat. All you gotta do is you gotta go register and check in there. So, as soon as you do that, we'll be ready to start off with the session. And I think we can give it a couple of minutes while everyone does that. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, oh yeah, another thing before I forget this thing. Um, Tweeting and sharing about this event is highly encouraged and appreciated. So make sure you do that on and off throughout the session. And definitely in this session, what we're going to do today, while of course we're all registering and checking in, I'm going to give a little brief idea. So today we are going to get a little hands-on experience with the Twilio API. We're going to try Twilio programmable SMS, which allows us to SMS anyone using a Twilio accounts and phone numbers. And the other thing we're going to also try is a Twilio phone call. So we're going to use both of these. And we're going to do it first with the .NET. I'm going to try it with .NET, but the best part about Twilio is that it has support for so many different platforms that you all can always try whatever language you prefer. Hey, I'm missing a lot of eyes. I'm so happy. There's a lot of buzz here in the chat. That's always amazing to see. Yeah. So I'll tell you what. I guess as we're registering, let me take you to the Twilio site and tell you a little more about Twilio and what it is that's so great about it. So let me know if you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm not gonna go to the console already. Let me just first take you all to the Twilio website. I think that's a good place to begin. So Twilio is a cloud communications platform. It is basically, it allows us to SMS, contact, essentially communicate with folks. It can be used for automations. That is one way to do it, but it doesn't have to be automated. It's essentially used, it allows you to reach out to the masses a lot more easily. So larger scale cloud communications, that's essentially what it does. That's the basic essence of it. Um, yeah, that was one thing that I worked on a while back. That was a fun project. So faking a call, that's definitely something that I can talk a little more about later. That's not something I'd planned right now. But yeah, that's just one sort of a use case. So if you want to fake a call to your own mobile phone, you can do that with Twilio. So hop over to twilio.com because we're also gonna work and go through making our little account. I already have an existing account, so I'm gonna log in. I'm gonna show the console. But one lovely thing about Twilio is that if you're a student, you can get $50 worth of Twilio credits for free through the GitHub Student Developer Pack. So I'm gonna hop over and share a link for the GitHub Education offer as well, so that all of you can get your student benefits and get 50 USD in Twilio API credits. So I've just shared the link here and I'm going to bring it up on my screen as well. So if you hop over to twilio.com/quests GitHub Education, you'll see that if you have the GitHub Student Developer Pack, you can access 50 USD worth of Twilio API credits, as well as some in-game Twilio Quest items. And Twilio Quest, if you're not aware of already, is essentially a little game tool, sort of an application that Twilio provides in order to help understand what Twilio's APIs are about. And it's a very fun experience. So I'll definitely recommend you all to check it out very soon. But in the meantime, you can get your student benefits just by clicking on Get Student Benefits. And what that'll do is it'll show you a promo code. Now, I have already availed my Twilio console, so I've already added my funds there. Now, what you can do in order to access that is you just go ahead, you create your account. If you don't have one, you can sign up for free. I have a Twilio account right now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and log in there. Yep. Now I'm just gonna take a second. Yep. Two-factor is there definitely with Twilio. They've made that. They have been enforcing two-factor, but apparently it didn't take it this time. All right, no worries. So let me just take you to the console dashboard. Now, when you create your account, once you've got it up and ready and you've created your first project, which is going to happen as soon as you get your account in, you will be able to see your balance, your account details, your own role within this project, any project users. Apart from that, they've also got some information on how you can use Twilio. And this is actually a very, very good thing because, Twilio's documentation is, in all honesty, one of the best I have ever seen. So once you're sitting with Twilio's documentation, you really don't need to worry too much about building your application here. And we've apparently got a drag and drop builder as well, but we're not going to be working with that right now. We're going to be we're going to get our hands dirty with code today. So as you scroll below, you'll also see that I have the programmable messaging and the programmable voice graphs here just to show the usage. This is because I've used these specific tools. You may not see these at the very beginning, but once you're using these will definitely show up. So when we've got our account ready, you can see the account SID and not token here. Please, these are going to stay private, your account. I mean, the SID, still it's best if you keep it hidden. The token I'm not going to be showing right now. As soon as we're done with that, what I want you all to do is I want you all to go over to programmable messaging. If you see it on the side, that's great. If not, then just click on these three dots and you will find it here in Communications Cloud. So just pin it after that. That will make accessing this a little easier for you. So what you can do is that, after, okay, yeah, I'll add like that. Let's just take that down below for the minute. So, in order to get your programmable messaging up and running, of course, you're gonna, when you try it out, it'll show how you can, all of these insights about your past messages. And as you can see that I can actually access my recent messages and the status for these, whether there's been any trouble or what exact message I've sent is also something I can see. So I get all of this information here. All right, I'm just coming back to the chat. The step after signing up. So after you sign up for Twilio, is this for Twilio or is this in regards with the event registration? Just let me know in the chat once. I think that would be cool. Thank you so much for sharing that article there, Simran. Unfortunately for this activity, we do not have a special check-in code. Sorry about that. So yeah, Nishan, just mention what are you referring to, the Twilio account setup or are you referring to the event setup? I think that would be very helpful. And in the meantime, I can just wait for a minute as you add that. I'll just look through the chat and see if we have any queries going on there. All right, after the event setup, just hop over to twilio.com and you can create your account. And if you're a student with the GitHub Student Developer Pack, you can also avail $50 worth of Twilio credits. So I'm just gonna share that the twilio.com link, just share that once, and I'll add the student offer link as well. So, as you're done, as you're registered, after that, you'll be able to see this console. And that's just what I was describing. So when you look at the dashboard here, I mean, it shows a little more, some more insights than the basic general one, because I've had Twilio programmable messaging running. Now, in your case, you would probably have to go and get a number first in order to use any of these services, right? So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna show you where you can get a phone number for yourself. I'm just gonna pin this here too. So in order to use Twilio, you're gonna need a Twilio phone number, because this is a number that is enabled to use the Twilio platform. And what you can always do is, I already have an existing number. What you can do, you can just go ahead, buy a number, and you can do this with the credits you have. So you do not need to invest separate money. I did not invest any separate money apart from the credits I already had. And in case you have trouble searching for a number, you can just get the number through this. They will help you find a number, and you can add all of these details and request for a number in case whenever it's available. Probably when you make your first account, it will show you some details by default. That's actually why I do not have an Indian number. I have a US number there, but that's not a problem. It totally works well. Just make sure that when you're looking at the capabilities that you have voice enabled. With India, that's the one. With US, however, that doesn't tend to be an issue. You can get all of these activated. So voice and SMS is good enough. That's what I had running. My number, if I look at my own numbers specifications, it has all of these running. So it is SMS, MMS, and fax, as well as voice capable. That actually is good. If if you're trying and you're learning, then it would be best if you have all of these services enabled. So you can get your number with all of these capabilities, and it's all right. Even if it's a US number, that's not a problem. When you're running your application and when you're trying it out, it's not gonna create trouble for you. So, okay, so if you're trying to get the Twilio credits, when you start your trial, you should have about $15 worth of credits anyway. When you have to add funds using that offer specifically, what you do is you have to access the billing information. So let me just see where the billing is. I need to look that up once. Let me just go through Twilio messaging there. And I think it'll be there at the console dashboard. Sorry. Yeah, so in billing, you'll be able to find add funds once you're in billing. And here, so one thing that you'll have is that even as you add a promo code, here you can avail all that $50. So you can go through with this and get your $50 credits. I think that should sound all right. I hope. Okay, so I'm just looking at the chat once. Harshitaditya, just if your dev post account is flagged by the automated process, you can create a ticket within the Discord server, and one of the coaches or Ryan, one of the MLHs will reach out to you definitely. So you can do that once in the Discord server. You do not have an add funds button. In that case, yes, the upgrade is what will need to be done when you upgrade account. And I believe when you upgrade the account, it does ask for the credit card information. It will not charge anything, but I believe that is something you'll have to add. That unfortunately is mandatory, and you're gonna have to do that. You're not getting the number on request. Okay, so the number troubleshooting we'll just get through once. For me, it's a little difficult right now since I already have a number availed. But I will recommend you change the option from India and you change it to something like if you change it to the US, for example, that should be all right for you. Because for me, I mean, since I already have an existing number, that's actually why I'm not going ahead and buying another one. But you can change this information here. when I had created my account, I got a US number, and that kind of worked out well for me. So you can definitely select all of these and get a number accordingly. And once you request a number, you do end up getting a number after that. So you can, it'll notify you when any numbers become available. I believe when you create your account, though the process is a little easier, it does help out, because that is what happened with me as well. When I had created my Twilio account, it did have a little extra support. So I am going to look into that and get back to you as well as to how you can get a number for yourself. If you're having trouble, we can definitely um, troubleshoot that. And in the meantime, we do have a little article here on how you can purchase the Twilio number on the Twilio support site. So I'm just gonna add that here in the chat as well. That should be able to help you. So as far as hosting goes, we're not gonna host an entire application on Twilio, but we're gonna be using Twilio's services and SDK to build a little project. If you can't find the add funds button, basically in the dashboard, if you see the billing tab there, just click on that and you'll find an upgrade account option and an add funds, then an add funds button. So I'll tell you what, let me move forward as well, because we need to get started building too. And we've definitely been having a ton of fun discussing about the platform. If you're just getting a number, you should get voice, SMS, and MMS. You can get all of them. I will recommend at least voice and SMS, since we're going to be using those two services in this session, definitely. Yeah, you get $15.5 upon making an account. That's the basic trial amount. Um, Once you use the GitHub education offer, after that you get $50 worth of credits. So that's something that is available for students. That's not been a problem, to be honest, because I myself own a US number on the account. And I remember, because when I created my Twilio account, I believe at that point India numbers weren't available. So I have a US number as well, and it hasn't created trouble for me. So once you're through with the process of obtaining a number on the Twilio platform, after that, what you can do is you can go ahead. Once you can pin this information on the dashboard. You can, I mean, the programmable messaging and the programmable voice options. Now, once we're through with that, I guess it's a good amount. It's good time. Let's get started building as well. So I want to take you all through the documentation here and the quick starts here, because of how wonderful these details are. We've got quick starts for all of these different features here on the Twilio platform. We're going to be using programmable SMS and programmable voice, definitely. So I'm going to keep these two open with me for the time being. And once that is done, we're going to get started. So the first thing, I mean, I personally am going to be using C# at .NET Core. You can go ahead and use any of the platforms that you want to use. So, if you like C#, if you like Java, Node.js, PHP, Python, or Ruby, you can go ahead with any of them, because Twilio has SDKs for all of these different languages available. And once whichever language you prefer, you can just go ahead and click on that quick start. I'm going to go ahead with .NET Core for the time being, and it's going to show you how basically you can get started with C# and .NET Core, and you can implement it. So we've got our application here. It's a console application where which shows us how exactly you can use the Twilio SDK, and you can see that we've got these two imported libraries as well. So these are actually available for C# specifically. These are available as NuGet packages, which is kind of the equivalent of maybe, for example, NPM for Node.js or pip in Python. So that just like that, we have NuGet for .NET packages, and these are basically packages that you can install and download. That's how you get the SDK available. So we're gonna make something like this right now. Let me reshare my screen. Okay, if you're not comfortable with C#, if you want to learn C#, I love C#. That's one of my favorite languages. But if you prefer another account, that's totally, I mean, if you like another language, you can totally go ahead with that quick start. C sharp is just something that I personally prefer, but you do not have to go with C sharp. So if the promo code isn't accepting, then in that case, one thing is that the promo code that I mean, the code that I had shown was, if you took it from the screen, then that code's not gonna work because that was basically there for my account, I believe. If I hope it, I'm not sure if it's the exact same, but one thing is there. I believe you might have to connect. If you've already got GitHub, the GitHub Student Developer Pack, that's how you get the code. So because I am logged in already, I'm not sure if that. Yeah, it's actually showing this exact code specifically because it's made for my account. You will have to log into GitHub. You'll have to apply for the student developer pack. And yeah, if you make a trial account, you're gonna get $15. To get $50, you're gonna need to avail the Twilio students offer for GitHub developer pack. You will have to upgrade your account to use that. Which Twilio product you have to choose? You can choose voice and SMS. Those two are good. Yeah, it's good to get a trial number. Once you get a trial number, if you upgrade and then add your GitHub student, the GitHub offer, that number is retained, so you can get your trial number that way. So I'm just gonna take my screen off for a second and move StreamYard here to the side. And as soon as we've got this going, I am now gonna get started with my, just bring my screen back up again. Just let me know as soon as my screen is visible if you're able to see it. You can mention in the chat. Yeah, you're gonna have to add the billing address and all that information is something that we're definitely gonna need. That's gonna be important because you're essentially purchasing a number from by using the credits. So you can add your home address as well. I mean, I use my home address there. Okay, I believe my screen should be up now. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to start Git Bash here, and I'm gonna start a little. I'm gonna create a new console app. .NET new console show video app learn. So what this is gonna do is it's just gonna create a little C# console app for me to use. And now if I just check all of these, it has a new directory up and running for me by the name of Twilio Learn. So I'm just gonna go cd Twilio Learn and open it in VS Code. What earphones do I have? Okay, I have the Surface earbuds. Those are the earphones I'm using right now. I do like those definitely. I find them great. They're comfortable. They sound good, and they're good to use. So I'm happy with these. Yeah. All right. So the first things first. I mean, this is just a basic Hello World application that we had up and running in that's just a basic C# .NET Core application. And as mentioned, you were going to be using the Twilio SDK, right? So for that, first things first would be to install download the Twilio SDK. So I am just gonna add the package here for Twilio. This is basically gonna download it, the NuGet package for me. But similarly, gonna have npm packages and something for pip as well. So you can definitely check. I mean, you can accordingly work with the quick starts and try those out. And yeah, in case you kind of got late while starting, that's not something you need to worry about. You can always go back and scroll later. That's not gonna be an issue. You can always check it out. So if you're blog post. Okay, if your GitHub code is being rejected, I think what we can do then is we can troubleshoot this a little later as well, while I get ahead with the tutorial, and we can definitely work on this in a bit. I'm definitely gonna get back to you on that problem, but we'll work at it. Promo code is not available for your account. Just check. Do you have the GitHub student developer pack? Because you're definitely gonna need that to use the promo code. For this, you can definitely do it on Replit. That is not an issue. Just make sure that you get your Twilio stuff, because I believe Replit does allow you to install packages there. I haven't used Replit for my work as much, to be honest. I just prefer working on my desktop in VS Code. But you can definitely go ahead with that option. That is not a problem. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start using the Twilio SD, and I'm gonna follow ahead while using the Twilio documentation, because the Twilio documentation is actually one of the best documentation I have ever seen. So I definitely want to make sure that we're using this to learn. So what we'll do now is that we got to have a string account SID and the auth token. If you would have gone and seen the console, you would have seen these two details here. Let it just load. Yeah, so you can find your account SID and auth token here. Make sure that you do not show your account auth token to anyone. And typically the account SID is also it's preferred if you do not show it, but well, it's all right. It's not gonna create too much of trouble right now. So once you have both of those, now the preferred method is always to use environment variables. I'm not gonna be using environment variables right now. I'm just gonna create a separate class and run it. But in a later part of the session, we're gonna try environment variables as well, because I'm gonna show how you can deploy these using an Azure function. So we're gonna do that as well in a little bit. First, I'm just gonna have a basic demo for you. So once you've got your account SID set, I mean, we can just remove this from here, and we need a string account SID equal to. All right. So before I jump to that, I actually had a little file available already for my own work. Let me just take that to my directory here, and this actually has all my Twilio stuff available for me. So I'm just gonna hop over, and I'm gonna say secrets dot Twilio content ID, because I already had that information saved separately for me in that little class. But you're gonna have to get it from your console for your work. So we're gonna do that. But I mean, you can create a separate file for yourself, or you can while making just a console application. It's okay if you keep your information here too, but it's not typically the recommended method. So after the count SID, we need the auth token as well. Oops, sorry about that. Again, yeah. So I mean, these details, just believe that I have just stored my information here. You're gonna have to add this information directly or create environment variables for your own purpose. Um, so do make sure that you go ahead with that. Once you've got the auth token ready and the account SID ready, the next step is to initialize the Twilio client. So even as you look at the documentation here, it uses the Twilio client.init and account SID and account token as the parameters here to initialize the Twilio client. Now, in order to do this, we're going to need to finally start using those libraries that we've just installed. So let me just write this here for a second. Twilio client.init, and I'm gonna have the account SID and auth token here. Now, one of the best parts about using VS Code is that with the control dot, you can actually see what namespace and package I actually need to import here. So I can just click on using Twilio, it'll add that there for me. And this personally is definitely one of my favorite aspects of using VS Code. It makes life so easy for any developer that I'm definitely a big fan. I think there's some discussion here going on in the chat about the GitHub Student Developer Pack. You will need some sort of academic proof to get that. If not, you can wait for a bit, or you can actually still create an account and get those $15 and try that out for the time being. You can use those. That's not a problem, definitely. Now, the next thing we got to do after the initializing is create a messaging resource. So for that, we've got the message resource class in the create function there. And we're going to be using this information here. So when we do that, what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable message. And after this, we're going to create message resource. Now, again, you can see that I'm getting these headlines there, which means some import isn't working. It can't find this. And in order to import these, you're going to have to bring in this REST API import. So once we have this, we're going to be able to use the APIs we have with us. And in this, what I'm going to have is I'm going to have to body. Now, in this body, I will add the message that I want to send, which for this case, let's just have hello world. I think that's a good place to begin. We need a phone number from which, my bad. Sorry, needed to be a comma. We're gonna have from here. Now, this is the phone number, the Twilio phone number that we just obtained. And we're gonna be using this phone number specifically to send the number. So, I mean, again, I had this saved in my secrets folder. Just an important point about this. So when you create your from number, it will need to be in a very specific format. So you will need to have your country code and then the rest of the number. So this is going to be the case for two as well. So if you're sending to your phone number, if it's an Indian number, you will need to have +91 at the beginning in order to have that message sent. So in 2, you can just add your own phone number, as again I already have that in there. So once this is done, we're just gonna have a little console. We're just gonna print the message SID to the console, and what this essentially will do is let me know that the message has gone ahead and been sent. So once this is done, I am just gonna clear this once, and we're gonna run this console app. So as soon as that happens, as soon as this runs properly, I am gonna get a message that essentially says that it's run successfully. I mean, the SID, if I get an SID, that means that it's gone ahead and it's run. Yep, I got my SID there, and I have got a message here on my Twilio account that says hello world. So this is the message that I just received using my Twilio account. And see, that's such a lovely little thing. It's that easy to get Twilio running and just send a message. Now, another thing we're going to do is we're also going to send a little call. So I'm going to make a change to this application directly. That's awesome. Twilio is amazing. Twilio is absolutely amazing. Yes, these videos will be available on YouTube and Twitch as well. So you can always go back and check them out there. So let's just make a little change to this application to implement calling, because we want to try that out as well, right? And it's actually not too different to make that. I'm again going to go ahead with C# and .NET. That's always my preferred go-to. And always you can go ahead and prefer whatever way you want to go ahead with. So in order to get calling running, we will need another little import here, Twilio types, but I'm going to get to that. And I'm going to explain why we need that. So if you look at the process for calling, you'll see that there's a slight difference here. We've got a URL instead of a body. That is because when we talk about calling, it uses something known as TwyML. TwyML is basically Twilio's own little markup language, which we use in order to create messages. That basically that's essentially what enables us to get these calls. So in order to create in order to use a twiml message like a URL, we need to create a twiml bin here. So one way to do that is, you go to programmable voice, you're gonna see twiml here in the dashboard, and you can just create, you can get an overview of twiml here directly. The other way to do that is you can actually directly add the twiml response in your chat as well. You can actually add this information directly. So that is what I'm going to be doing right now. I'm going to be adding my twiml message directly. So that's going to be a slight variation of what we've got running here already, as I've shown in the programmable voice chat. And one thing I'll mention is that what you can do is you can actually add the information here directly. I actually made a slight error. I should have created this as new phone number, but it worked out for me directly like that as well. But I guess I'll follow a better practice this time. So let me just take these out from here for the time being. We're gonna have this variable out here. So var2 is gonna be a new, sorry, it shouldn't have been a colon, new phone number. Whoa, that was weird. And so this is exactly why we need the types, the Twilio.types library, because we don't have the phone number info otherwise. So I'm just gonna add secrets dot to number here directly. And the other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have another similar one for from, and we're gonna have the no phone number here. And it's again, now this is gonna use the secrets of from number. To number basically just once again contains my own phone number. I mean, to contains my phone number, and from is my Twilio number. I've been working for a few months now. All right, so we're developing a console application first to understand how we can use the Twilio API. And actually, in a few days, we're going to try another little thing with Twilio again in another session. So do stay tuned for that. That will be a larger real world use case of Twilio. But in this case, right now, I'm just explaining how to go about using Twilio. We're going to try another little thing after I just explain how you can go about using the programmable voice and programmable SMS functions. All right, so the SIDs here. This is actually a format that Twilio has suggested. So in case there is no inventory for SIDs, I think there's going to be something in Twilio support that's actually not necessarily a case I've been through. The SID we got from the message is something that Twilio sends back, but to be honest, that is something that we'll have to look at a little later. I'm going to have to look into that and get back to you accordingly. Yeah, so we've got our phone numbers ready. Now we're going to have to start making a few changes again based on the information we have here. So this time, instead of using the message resource, we're going to be using the call resource to create. I'm not going to be creating a twiml bin and using the URL from there, although we can definitely do that too. But there's a different process that I'm going to follow in our case. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go back here, of course, change this information. Call resource instead, as that is the one we need. I'm just going to add to and from directly. And instead of using URL there, what I'm going to use is I'm going to add twiml. So when I add this here, I can actually directly add the twiml content in order to get my app running. So in that case, the format in order to get it to say a message is to add the response tag and the say tag. And after that, as soon as that is done, if you can look at this message here, let me show you this message and I'll show you what the format is like. At least if you saw this, so we've got this here back again. So once we go ahead with the response, even if you look at this XML file, we've got all of this information in these different places. So this is the format we end up using. So I'm just gonna add the say tags and then just close the response tag. So that's what I'm gonna be doing here. And I'll just add these first and close these as well. This one as well. And in the middle here, you can add whatever information what you would like to add. So hello there. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining. Local a share. And I'll just change this as well. So now if I run this little application here, what it's gonna do is it's actually gonna make a call to my phone and it's gonna send in this exact link as well. Saket, okay, the check-in link, I'll just resend that again. Just a second. In the meantime, let me get this running as well. So, once this runs, I'm gonna get a little call on my phone. So if you can see right now, I'm getting a phone call here right now, which basically
hope you're doing well.
Say this
Thanks
message.
For joining local hack day share.
I hope that was audible, but that's essentially how it's gonna call out the message for you directly. And that's how convenient it is using Twilio. I mean, as soon as I ran that, I got a call on my phone and it essentially read out that exact same message that I have down there right now. Yes, it was awesome. So that's exactly, that's how convenient using Twilio is. It's that simple. So what I'm gonna do now is I actually had worked on a little use case of Twilio sometime back. So how was my phone number linked? My phone number here goes into my personal phone number goes into the to number, that is the number it's calling, and from has my Twilio number. So you can have both of those details there. Also, Saket Kumar Gautam, here's the check-in link for the activity if you haven't gone through. I have just sent it out in the chat and you should be able to see it now. Can we change phone number as many times? So changing the Twilio number, of course, if you keep purchasing Twilio numbers and you have multiple of those, all well and good, you can change those. The to number, yeah, you can always change at any point of time. That's your call totally. But I will recommend while testing, please just keep it to your personal phone number. Do not test it at someone else's number because there have been cases. So there have been times if I'm building a little SOS application and I'm using, Twilio, if I don't keep my own phone number, this might cause someone to freak out. So, that's why I recommend just keeping, your own number when you're testing and learning. Now, what we can do is we can have a little use case there. So let's just create a little Azure function. I mean, you love Azure functions. That's one thing we can do. So, I mean, I was looking at this API earlier that sends an inspirational quote a day. So maybe, yeah, let's create a little Azure function here. That's what I was thinking. That will send me a quote of the day every day. And for this, I'm going to be using a very specific little API called the quotes API from they said so. So this little API will allow me to send a quote of the day every day for free. So let's try this out. I'm going to create an Azure function which can achieve this for me. So I'm just going to go I'm going to start a new window. Close that one. and I'll create an Azure function project. One second. Just keep this open because that's handy. Now this is just an extra little project that I'm trying to show how you can implement this in other projects and real world projects. You can actually work on any idea you might want to, or that interests you. Automated prank calls, very funny idea, but I do not recommend. Please don't do that because this can actually create a lot of panic. So please don't do that. I don't recommend that, to be honest. Okay, I've just got my Azure ready there. We're just gonna keep it handy for later because this is something we're gonna get to. For now, oops, 1 second. Sorry, a lot of different things running on my device. That happens sometimes. So let's just create. I'm just gonna create a new a new Azure Functions project. It's just gonna take some time to load. So now for this, I've got my Azure logged in already. If you want to use a functions project, what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to install the Azure Functions, the extension from there. That's specifically for Azure Functions, and that's just a use case that I want to show here. You can actually work on any different use cases, be it in a mobile app or anywhere that you might like to. So I'm just gonna say Twilio quotes, and that's the name of my project. I'm gonna select this folder here. C# is my go-to. So yeah, I'm gonna use .NET Core 3 instead of .NET 5 right now. I tried .NET 5. It's come in very new, but I had a slight amount of trouble earlier. .NET Core 3 right now is in long-term support and it's reliable, definitely. So I'm just gonna go ahead with that. And yeah, you can always try with .NET 5. It's just that I personally on my device I had a little bit of trouble, so I'm going with .NET Core 3 for the time being. For the template, since it's a quote of the day application, what I was thinking is that we can actually try out a timer trigger instead of an HTTP trigger. So that is the one I'm going to try out, and we're going to call it quote of the, oh, okay, that's too long, QOTD. Just going to go with that a little quicker, but it essentially means quote of the day. Company.function, that's the namespace I want to go with. That's totally cool. If you want to change that to something else, please feel free to do that. Now, the cron expression here that we see is actually used to set the format. So for me, what I'm going to do is I want to keep it at the 0th second. The time here, it typically sends it and sets it in UTC. So let's see what the UTC time is for right now. And I'm going to change just, UTC time right now. And I'm going to set it for maybe, 15 minutes later or half an hour later, something like of that sort. So right now UTC time is 7:03. What I'm going to do is I am going to, in that case, I'm going to set it for 7:30. I think that should be a good idea. So here in the minutes, I'm just going to set it as 30. I'm going to change the hour to 7, and day, month, and day of the week I'm not going to change, because star just means it's going to send it once a day every day, and that's essentially what I want. So I'm going to just go ahead with that. In order to debug, I must have a storage account. Okay, I can select a storage account. I'll create a new one. I will name that as Twilio Learn. Oh, my bad. Didn't notice that coming up. Cool. I also need a new resource group. So these are just some details, again, for Azure specifically. So I'm again gonna call it Twilio Learn. I'm gonna call that Twilio Quotes as Twilio Quotes. And easy function. That's just my own naming principle. You can always go ahead and do it for whatever you want. Central India is going to be my option since that is the one nearest to me. That is the location nearest to me. You can always choose a location near to you. All right, so the timer trigger function, I'm actually here creating a little Azure function within which I'll implement Twilio. So that's actually something by Azure. And that's just an example of how you can implement it. There are always a lot of ways by which you can do that. Let's just open this project in the current window. I hope you're all having fun. I hope this has been exciting. Well, it's creating a little project for me. And yeah, this can take time sometimes. Um, I can always look at any queries in the meantime. All right, so the timer trigger function that I'm actually creating right now, I can send in a little documentation for that. Timer trigger is just, it's a sort of Azure function which is not necessarily triggered by an HTTP request. It is triggered at a periodic basis based on the time that I set in the format there. So, I mean, this is definitely not the only way by which we can implement a Twilio API. This is just something that I have tried. Okay, if your region has certain restrictions, actually, then that's not necessarily something I can fix right now. But in the meantime, okay, let me just send you the little link for the Azure function that I have right now. So as you can see that it's restored all of these. That's just used to log when the timer is being triggered. And I can always change my timing information there. I totally agree to that. Tech is absolutely awesome. It's actually unbelievable what's possible. I am astounded, surprised, and just happier knowing about the amazing stuff that's happening every day. That's what it feels like. And it's definitely a really amazing world out there. So I'm just going to take this down. Now, what I mentioned is that we're going to be using this little API that I just mentioned. It's called the Ports API from They Said So. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to have them send me a little, a little quote back. I want a quote of the day from them. Now the API link for that here is quotes that's available here. I'll send this link in the chat as well. You can actually create a normal console application here too if you want. If you don't want an Azure function, you can create that and just have that run to get the API as well. This is just a possible use case of how you can use the Twilio API. And I've sent it here in the chat too. Now in this, they do have a free tier, which allows me to get the quote of the day. So I'm just going to go ahead with the free tier. And since, I have timed it for like once a day, so that doesn't exactly exceed the rate that is set. So what I'm going to do is, they do have an attribution. While I don't have an app, I'm going to give a little attribution in the dev post page a little later. So we're definitely going to do that. And I'll add little, I'm going to add this here in my function. I'm just going to add a little comment that says powered by quotes from They Said So. Just because it's a nice little API. So I'm going to do that first already. Yeah, now back to this. So the first thing we got to do is we need to get a quote, of course. And each of these APIs, if you work with the APIs, you realize that, this one, we get the response as a JSON string, as a JSON file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, so, since, the response is coming in JSON, I'm going to need to convert it into a C# model. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a model ready for this entire response. Now, at least with C#, the most convenient thing is that I do not need to sit and think and convert it. What I can do is I can just go ahead and search JSON to C# and I can get the model directly. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to convert it. I'm going to get the model for this entire lovely little response format that I have. And that's making my life convenient, definitely. For the extension here, it's just the Azure Functions extension for Azure Functions. And I am using C# and .NET Core 3 for this function. You can actually go ahead and use any language that you might like to work with. So this makes life for me easier. I mean, I just can convert the JSON to an entire little model. So I'm gonna just copy this and I'm gonna take this to my function here. I will create a little folder here called models. This is where I'm gonna keep my model. Within this, I can create a new file. I can call it quote model.cs. And later on, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna change this little name to quote model. Now, if you can see that it's getting a little error, and that is because the collections library, which contains lists, has not been invoked. So I'm just gonna add that. And as soon as that, we can see that this little function is ready to work. So the only change I've made here from that JSON here is that the root has been changed to quote model. That's just the name I wanted to keep. Now, as we get back to the function here, now first thing first, I'm gonna need to get a little the back from had. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna go back here to this function. I'm gonna check what their URL string is, because since this is the URL that I want to use, so I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna keep this in a variable. Now, next thing we gotta do, we've gotta create an HTTP client to make an HTTP request here. So I'm just gonna do that. And when you see this happening, you'll see that this it's showing me a little error here. That's because I need to use the HTTP library here available within .NET. So this is an inbuilt library, and once I've got this ready, I can actually send HTTP request to to basically any REST API. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send a little GET request to this function I already have up and running, and I am going to do that using the get async function. So in order to do that, let me just get started. Just a second. I'm sure it's StreamYard. I was checking. We don't have a special checking code. Oh yeah, the VS Code theme. So this is actually the .NET Conf special edition theme that I have running. You can actually get it available from the .NET Conf website. That's where I found it, and it's a nice little theme. I personally really love it. If you like, I can always just send it here in the chat. That's not gonna be a problem at all. Do you like the theme? I mean, I really love the theme, but if you like the theme, that's awesome. I am so happy. I'm really glad that you like it. Yeah, so we've got the HTTP response message. So since we want a response, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna add an await here. Since the HTTP messages, these are all asynchronous functions. So I'm gonna use the async function for this. I'm gonna add my URL here. As you can see, yes, I need to make the method async in order to run this. So I'm just gonna do that. And this is gonna allow me to run asynchronous functions with my method. We need to do this because the HTTP requests here in .NET, at least this function essentially it's an asynchronous function. All right, so for the theme link, I'll send that in a bit. I'll definitely do that. I'll send that. Just remind me a little closer towards the end of the session, and I'm gonna send that in. But it's really awesome if you like that, because I love this theme. It's hard to follow along. Totally understand that, because of course in an hour and a half session there's only so much that we can do, and I'm really sorry about that. But we can definitely, since the recording is available, you can actually spend your own good time reviewing this and again later as well. Unfortunately, it'll be really difficult for me to explain the entire process of what we've done right now again, because we've covered a chunk of information. But what you can do is you can always rewind through the YouTube recording or the Twitch recording later. So what this will do is this here will allow me to um, get the response message, and now I'm just gonna convert it into okay, I think I've messed up a little thing here. Let me just review this because this is something I always mess up. Issues as null values being reported. I did not have issues with null values, so that's not necessarily what I had trouble with. And that's definitely a great idea. I'm gonna discuss that as soon as I'm done with this function. Definitely we'll discuss more ideas because I love working with Twilio. I can actually talk about a few use cases I've made in the past as well. So I can definitely share that with you. Let me just review this. Yes, so response message dot content dot read as async. Yeah, this is always something that I tend to mess up. Showing an error here. Yeah, that should be cool. So what this is gonna do is now I have a little content file. This has my JSON response, so now I can just go ahead and create a quote model queue quote, and I can actually deserialize this entire little thing into the quote model. Now, in order to work with JSON information, what I typically do is I use there's a NuGet package that I use, and that's the Newtonsoft.json. That's actually a very common, that's one of the most commonly used packages in the world. So I'm just gonna add that Newtonsoft. That there are some inbuilt stuff to work on that as well, but it's just that my comfort is a little more on the Newtonsoft library, so I just like to go ahead with that. So I'm just gonna, yeah, I've got that for me. I'm just gonna add that here once, Newtonsoft.json. And I'm gonna just mention the little command to convert, deserialize this content, the JSON content that we've got, into this object that this format that we've created for ourselves. What model here? So once this is, oops, I think I got a little. So what this is gonna do is this is basically gonna convert my my format here, my JSON response here into. Okay, should I zoom in? Yeah, I can zoom in definitely. I'm gonna convert the JSON response I have here into a model the model that I created earlier. So now what I'm gonna do is I am going to convert this model into. I'm gonna get the message out of this. So the where quote of the day is basically gonna be quote. Here what I'm adding is just following what I've created in the quote model. It's just the format that I'm following from there. So don't worry too much about this specific quote. Yeah. So what I've done essentially here is that if we go back to the quote model, we'll see that within the quote we had the contents class within which we had a list of quotes. Now, since it's a quote of the day, a single quote, it's going to be there the first. It's going to be the first quote that we get. So that's always 0. And at that point, within that quote here, which is again, it's a list of the quote class objects. So within that, we need the quote string. So that's essentially what I'm getting back right now. And we're gonna send this using a Twilio function to our phone. So I'm gonna message this to my phone right now. We'll just convert the JSON model to string. So what I'm doing is, since I created a model here, this is the entire object model. So this is essentially, if this JSON was a C sharp, if these were C sharp objects, that's the format it would be in. I had converted that earlier, and what I'm doing is using the newtons of the JSON library, I am deserializing this JSON string into the object that I had. So what I'm gonna do now is, it's time to get back to some Twilio magic now, finally. So I guess I will have to install the Twilio library here. I don't think I did that earlier. I'm just gonna add the package for Twilio here. I'm again just gonna use the Twilio stuff. Although in this case, to be honest, if you want to use environment variables, we can actually very comfortably do that with in the Azure Functions online portal. So I'm gonna show that in a bit. Just gonna copy this file here and bring it over in my Twilio codes folder. I actually don't want to be pushing this, to be honest, to my file later, but just when I'm running it locally, I'm gonna show how it works. And I'm gonna add Twilio stuff to my git ignore so that this doesn't go up. So, I mean, that's something I'm definitely gonna have to ensure. I don't want to send this file up. Also, I'm just gonna rename this once. I guess I ended up showing it on stream anyway, so I'm gonna have to change some of that stuff. I did not intend to do that, but never mind now. For your monthly number, no, you're not going to be charged monthly for that. I mean, it was a one-time charge. I haven't seen separate charges, to be honest, on my device for the time being. So I've got my Twilio stuff there that has all my content. I'm just gonna create my auth ID. I mean, sorry, account SID first. And yeah, first things first, after this session, I'm gonna have to change my auth ID definitely. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do that in a bit. Auth token. Again, gonna be my auth token here. Then of course I've also got my two number. It's gonna be new number two number. Just gonna go back and show you, and just wanted to tell you it's totally okay if you need to refer back to the documentation again and again. That's totally not a problem. All right, if there's a recurring item, it's actually something that I'll have to check once again. But even if there's a charge, it's actually not gonna be very costly. I haven't seen very massive charges on my Twilio account, to be honest, for my billing. So yeah, of course, you can check out the recurring items. And so the last cost that I had, all right, I guess it probably would have been quite a long while. So it's a very minor price for the phone number. So I don't think that should be a major problem, to be honest. But yeah, so I'm just gonna create my new phone number here. And for that, of course, I'm gonna need the Twilio types. Just gonna get that in there. And I'm gonna have secrets.to number where from secrets dot from number. So again, these are the phone numbers that I needed to add. And after this, I'm just gonna create a message resource. I'm gonna message this. I don't need an entire new call specifically for just one quote. Message Source. This is not showing up because I haven't added the REST API library, but that's okay. We have it now. So I'm gonna have to do from. And it's not asking for extra, I mean, more details in this since we've already created these variables up there. And I'm gonna need my message, which is what I can also do is I can actually just create my message here as well. I'll just have my message. Sorry, that was the body actually, to be honest, not the message. Body was the variable. So I'm just gonna create my body variable here as well. And I'm just gonna have my quote of the day. Oh, surprisingly, we're having a little trouble. That shouldn't be the case necessarily. Let me just check that out once. I'm just gonna glance at the documentation once again to see where I'm getting a little issue. Body from to, I guess it shouldn't be a major issue, but I'm just gonna add the format there. And yet somehow I seem to be getting a little trouble here. Let me see if because last time I just went on without this information here. Now it doesn't have what? I'm a little confused here. Let me just review this documentation once. See, this is exactly the sort of trouble we can always end up in. It's always possible. So, it's always good to constantly go back to the documentation and check. We do have documentation for Java as well. If you look up programmable messaging and if you just start off with the guides, there is documentation for Java. We have that quick start here. So you can always go ahead and use Java for this work as well. So it seems like I'm getting some trouble, but I'm not totally sure why. So let me just take my screen off for a second and glance at it so that I can check where it might be going wrong. So I'm actually looking at the documentation right now. It seems like these should be okay to go, but I'm just gonna see if I can just get these up and running once again, because this is actually not a trouble that I have faced earlier. So I'm just gonna try and figure out where it's messing up, and accordingly we're gonna try and get it running. Huh. Okay, that looks okay. So just a second, I'm just gonna bring my screen back up. I'm actually just trying to look through the documentation once and see where it's messing up. I'll just need a second there. All right, I'm just bringing my screen back up. I am not sure how it got fixed here in a second. This is kind of weird, but yeah. In the meantime, I'm just going to change this time to 40 since, well, we've just been working at it a little longer than expected. And that's totally all right. That totally happens. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to log. I'm just going to say message SID. So this is something that I'm using to log a message information in my Azure portal, because I'm going to be uploading this there. But before that, I'm going to run it locally as well so that we can see it running. For that, we need Azure Functions Core Tools. I have that installed already. I'll send that in a little later, the link for that. So at this point, essentially all that we need is to return. Okay, we actually don't need to return an HTTP response here since this is not an HTTP triggered message. So I'm just gonna run this right now. That you can do with the F5 button. That's the one we use. In order to run this, you're gonna need the Azure Functions Core Tools if you're on Windows. So yeah. It's just built this entire little thing and getting it ready to run. And if things go well, in another 10 minutes, we're gonna have a little message come to me with the quote. Wait, okay. That's a slight little error. It does not run. That's why. That's okay. I don't think we'll have any trouble there. I'll tell you what, why don't I just stop this for a second? I'm gonna restart it and I'm gonna restart it closer to our time right now. So in the meantime, actually, I can just change this to task as well. And let's change this to 33. Let me check what the UTC time is right now. And I can accordingly change it for 2 minutes later. I'm just gonna keep it at 34 and I'm gonna get it running. A lot of the deletes is actually rebuilding the entire project. So that's essentially what's happening right now. In the meantime, does anyone have any queries? I can actually send the .NET, the theme that I was talking about. My VS Code theme is this one. I've just sent it in the chat. And if you like this theme, I guess there was a mention of this earlier. If you like it, you can always go ahead and use it. So let me see, as soon as I get a message, should be all right. So the function is up and running now. It's running on a time trigger. So as soon as it hits that timing, 34, I should get a message on my phone. Just hoping for the best, because this is actually the first time I'm trying out time triggers myself. I normally work with HTTP triggers because that allows me to send post requests and get requests, but with a timer trigger, that's not how we go ahead and work. So yeah, hoping for the best. At 34, it should hopefully trigger this function. And I guess it should work now. I'm just hoping it really does, because if it doesn't, that'll be funny. I'm guessing it might have something to do with the fact that I'm running it locally. and that I might actually have to upload it to actually get it to run. But I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna, in that case, I might just upload that after all. Oh well. Why don't I actually just upload it and I'll change the time to 40, for example. In that case, it should run in another 5 minutes. And I mean, that's technically how it's supposed to run. But yeah, this is a slight little issue that happens at times. Running locally gets a little different from running it on the platform. So I'm just going to deploy it and create a new Azure function. It will be called Twilio Codes. 3.1 Central India. I'm just going to get it up and running on there. So in the meantime, I can actually take this down and get into any queries you might have. So I think some folks, if you're having a username, a null for username, where exactly are you getting a null for username? Yeah, let's hope for the best. I mean, it's definitely my first time using time triggers, but for an HTTP trigger, I can definitely assure you it works. I can actually bring up another project of mine that I had worked on, which runs definitely. Okay, so you might have mistyped your account SID. Just be sure to check that out once. VS Code Visual Studio was flagging at line 17. What was the line at line 17? Was it your Twilio client in it? Because if it was flagging at the Twilio client.init line, which basically at the Twilio client initialization, then in that case, it's an issue with the account SID. You should just check out whether that's up properly. So I'll actually bring up a little project that I worked on recently. I made a little article about it as well, and it basically allows me, it's the one that allows me to fake a phone call from a mobile. And within that, it actually, I do use an Azure function there with an HTTP request. So I'll just take you to the article there. It's, I mean, I wrote a little article on that, and I think Simran shared that in the chat earlier. So within this application, this is one use case that I made, which basically allows me to trigger an Azure function to basically, you know, make a phone call, to fake a phone call to my mobile. So for this in the Twilio function, what I did was I created a Twilio function, an Azure function here with Twilio, and this had HTTP requests involved. So I essentially used environment variables in this specific case. And after initializing, I just went ahead and I made a phone call from my device. And I've actually got the little app running here. In order to trigger this, I made a little Xamarin.Android app. So I can actually trigger this right now. Let me do that if it's connected already. So I can just go ahead. I'm just gonna, if I show you my, yeah. So with that app, basically, I can fake a phone call here. And it looks like I just shut it for a second. Yeah, I can attempt a call and it's gonna call up my phone. It shows call successful. The moment that happens, I get a phone here. And it basically says,
Hope you're doing well. Well done getting this call running. Use this opportunity to get away from here.
Yeah, that's essentially what it does. It just tells me, you know, it's a nice little call, and it's a good distraction to get out of situations. So that's exactly the Dreamy Moon. Thank you so much for that. That's the same. That's the one. That's the article that I have running, and I have it open here as well. So using this, you can actually it uses Twilio's calling function to run. And this one definitely runs. This is tried and tested. It has been a very successful little thing for me. I do use it at times if I'm out somewhere and I'm in a position where I really don't want to sit in a group. I just want to get out of a situation. So if you go to the end of this article, I can actually show the GitHub repository for that. That has the Xamarin and application as well, because I made the smartwatch application using Xamarin. Here's a little demo video of that. So if you just scroll down, you can actually view this little um, repository here. And so within this, there are actually two branches. If you go to the second branch, that is the Twilio function branch, this is where I have my Azure function for this specific functions. This is actually a running function right now, and it's active. So in order to try a so for SMS, you will need to use a Twilio number in order to use any Twilio platform, because Twilio actually, so the thing with Twilio is that you can only use a specific number for their work, right? You need that. As far as they said so goes, I'm actually gonna see and just gonna run it as a normal .NET Core app once as well, to see if I might have, if I really hope this hasn't happened, but there's a chance I might have gone wrong somewhere else. Oh, looks like that. I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna try it in a little console application once. So one second, let me just bring my screen back up. I'm actually having a little trouble and I have no idea why. So I'm gonna need to debug it some way or the other. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna share my entire screen. I might have gone wrong somewhere. There's a very high chance that could have happened. So just a second, I'm gonna share my screen. I hope it should be back up about now. And I'm just gonna go back to that old little program that we had created then. So okay, cancel. Dot. And I'm gonna make my edits here in this method that we created earlier. So let me see. This would have been an async. And let me just get the dependencies back from there as well. That is something I would definitely need. So in that case, if there's anything that I'm messing up, it'll just let me know. And of course, I don't need some of these. I need a few specific ones. Like I guess I haven't installed Newtonsoft. I also don't have the quote model here. Let me bring over the quote model from there once. Just very on the fly debugging just to get this running, because there's a chance I might have gone wrong somewhere, but I have no idea where. Unreal system dot threading dot yeah. Just not using. This should be using the Twilio API. Okay, I think let's just run it once and see what happens. It's gonna give me any errors if I get any errors, and that's the best part. Hey Rublin, hope you're doing well. All right, so that's exactly the issue that I had. Oh damn! I just realized what I've done wrong, and that is I forgot to initialize the Twilio client. Oh gosh, I just missed out that one little line. Otherwise, it would have been running. So I'm just gonna get this running once again. This is just sad, but that's literally what happened in the function. Count SID. I can't believe that's the sort of error I made, but that happens, and that's okay. That happens. Using Twilio. So now we know where we went wrong. Let me just change this to 46. That is a minute later, and hopefully it should be all right now. If it still isn't all right, then we're gonna go back and debug in the other console function. But like this is legit the sort of errors that happen at times, and that's okay. We learn by making these mistakes. It seems like I might have gone beyond the time, which is why it won't run because it's already crossed that time. So yeah, sorry. I'm just gonna go ahead for 48. Building, it's building, and hopefully things will be all right. If not, we can always go back and try it again. Yeah, I just reset the time. Because what would have happened otherwise is that, had I not had that time up and running, it would have just waited till the next day. So in the meantime, I'll make the edit here in case we need to test it again. I'll make this little thing here. While we wait and see what happens. We still got a minute left. Hopefully it'll trigger. I'm gonna keep my phone up and running. In case it doesn't trigger, but then if it works in the console function, then that just means probably it'll work after the upload. So we can just redeploy it and that should be okay. In the meantime, I've got it. I've got the time running on my device. I'm not sure if it triggered. I really hope there's no trouble with the time sort of a thing because that is if that's the trouble, then that's a that could just been an error. Let me just run this here. If it's that, then I guess I just need to recheck the cron function, the cron expression ones. That does tend to happen at times. A shorthand identifier for your profile. Where exactly is it asking for that? I'm not totally sure about the shorthand identifier being mentioned here. Oh, this is repeated. Okay, so the function actually does work. I just got a message from the API. I have got a code right now. So it does actually work, and that's awesome. Now that just means that it's the cron function the cron expression which I need to figure out for the timing. But I am getting a message from the API. Just after the auth and the SID. I am not sure of this error. I'll tell you what, why don't you look it up right now and see what exactly it might be. So If we look at this has been a general one. A local ID for the credentials. I haven't always seen this happen, but it seems like some other places have been asked for a local ID at times as well. So we can just go through this blog and see where we've seen a use case for this. But so one thing that I'll mention, I don't really use the Twilio CLI specifically. I actually don't use that. So in the Twilio login, so for your Twilio account, you can actually, I'll tell you what, why don't you check out this account because it has some mention of the Twilio CLI. But to be honest, the Twilio CLI is not something you need to use specifically for your usage. I haven't ever used the Twilio CLI. I just work without it either way. But you can definitely check this article out. It has a mention. Yeah, I believe that that's essentially what is happening. You can just create, right, mention something like Twilio account. That is what it has done. It's essentially just asking you to add a name from what I see here as well. You can check out this article because it does mention the login and choosing the CLI. So you can check it out. If your DevPost account is suspended, please just go ahead, create a ticket on Discord and just mention that your DevPost account has been suspended and someone will definitely get back to you on that very soon. So now that we've got this up and running and we've got so many tabs, now it's time to finally get to our DevPost submission. I think it feels great to get to that point. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna add the console application for now. You can put up whatever work you've done so far, or if you've got anything else running, even if it's that first hello world that we had, even if it's that, you can put that up. I'm going to push my console app because that's the one that's running. So I'm just gonna initialize the repository and created Twilio. Oops, not Twilio, it's Twilio. Example console app. That's just what I'm adding. You can actually create a commit message as per your own wishes. And I'm gonna go ahead. Once that's initialized, let me just go ahead and create a new repository. We can look at this later. I mean, we didn't end up using the portal, but that's all right. That's not an issue because we can actually get a lot of this work done directly through VS Code. So VS Code is very powerful that way. And I'm just gonna go ahead now. I'm gonna go. Okay, nice. It's always nice to end up seeing something like this. So I'm just gonna create a new repository. Twilio code example app. I'm gonna mention Twilio app to send quote of the day. And I'm just gonna mention in the brackets here LHD. Yeah, that's just my own way of specifying the description. Again, you can do whatever you want. Now, since we have an initialized repository, we will not touch these three and just create the repository directly. And I will recommend keeping it public because we have to push it to, we're gonna take it up to DevPost for our submission. So since this is running, we've got a repository initialized. I'm just gonna go ahead and add these commands here and run them. So what this is gonna do is it's gonna add this Git repository as the remote and create a branch and push it. So nice and comfortable. I have my app up here right now. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go head over to, I'm gonna go back to our LHD share page because I wanna access the dev post. I'm gonna do and send that in. Oops, my bad, sorry. Typos happens. Life is tough. I'm just gonna scroll down. I'm gonna get to the day 3 dev post, and I will send this link here in the chat as well. Will, I'm not totally sure. We might see Will, but yeah. Thank you so much for that. Life is very tough. Here's the dev post. Let me just send it to all destinations actually. 1 second. I'll send it to YouTube and Facebook as well. So Twitch folks, you might see a second one. So now on the day 3 dev post, all you gotta do is you gotta create a new teammate. We're working solo, and I heard about. So I'm gonna create a project now. This I'm just gonna call it Twilio code sample app. That's why I like to keep this information here, because I can just copy paste it at any point of time. Makes life a little easier. And one thing I also like to do is I just add LHD share 2021. Just my formatting, nothing to worry about. You do not need to again complete every single step of these, but make sure you add what it does. And I'm also gonna mention a little mention from regarding the quote of the day API. So I just want to give them a shout out once here. So I'm gonna go ahead and I will, okay, where is it? Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna copy this little line from here. Actually, to be honest, DevPost tends to add all this information. It's essentially markdown, but I'm not sure if it'll add all the details. So I'm just gonna go ahead, add the title for the timing, and I want to check it out later. For the attribution, definitely. So for the timing, this is the least I can do. We used Twilio. We used C Sharp. We used .NET. So I've just added those. If you work with a different platform, please feel free, go ahead. Take your GitHub repository, just mention it here in the try it out links. And we don't need to put a video demo right now. You can just save and continue. After that, in the additional information, make sure to select use the Twilio API here, because that's what we did. We used the Twilio API. And we just go ahead, select the terms and conditions, and submit the project. So yeah, there we have it. We're finally at the end. I think this was a nice strenuous 1 hour 45 minutes for a lot of us. Good strenuous process. So I hope this was a lot of fun for you folks. Now, as far as other ideas goes, you can actually create SOS applications anywhere where you might need to send out a mail message. Because with Twilio, you can actually send out mails, you can have chat, you can have video chats as well. So Twilio is actually very extensive. It's a very complete communication platform that way. So you can actually try out all of those. The theme, I actually sent it out just now. So I'll just send it again. Just a minute. I'll just look at the theme once again. And yeah, so if you did really like the theme, here it is. Awesome. That's water bottles. Awesome. So yeah, here's the theme once again. If you liked it, you can definitely use it. Yeah, no, this is something I got here in Dehradun, not Delhi Sadar Bazaar, but I totally relate with the feel. So yeah, I hope this was a nice, interesting experience for you. To be honest, Twilio is one of my favorite technologies. I love trying out Twilio and of course .NET. Well, probably .NET loves me more than I love it. Could be vice versa, both of those cases. I mean, I might just love it more, but yeah, .NET and me, it's just a match because I love working with .NET. And hey, you shouldn't hate yourself. Um, It's not totally one-sided. I mean, .NET's actually the reason I didn't end up leaving coding. So it's been there for me as well. What do we have next for Twilio? I mean, in the next challenge. So I'll be joining back in another challenge in a few days in the GPS and maps technology, where I'm gonna run and work a nice little use case for Twilio. I mean, that's just a little teaser I've given. That one is focused on GPS and map technologies, but I'm gonna be bringing back Xamarin. I'm gonna be using some geolocation stuff from there, and I'm gonna be trying out and utilizing Twilio for my own benefits as well. So we're going to have a nice little use case that does involve a little bit of Twilio. So yeah, that is about it for me. I guess this session's gone long enough. Um, Thank you so much to everyone for joining in. And if you have any queries, I'm there on the Discord server. You can always reach me there. That would be absolutely lovely. So yeah, see you all. Thank you so much. And do enjoy Local Hack Day. Share. Happy hacking. Bye bye.